The first Kingdom Come Deliverance sold itself as a historically accurate medieval RPG, earning both praise and criticism alike for obtuse, simulation-like mechanics, such as learning to read in order to advance quests. It was not for everyone, a scuffed gem many skipped over, especially given the poor state it launched in back in 2018. It later garnered more praise for how a wonderful cast of characters drew you into ridiculous scenarios, from bar brawls to psychedelic trips with wannabe witches, that juxtaposed a bleak but well-told tale of war and revenge. There were no actual witches, and that's true of the sequel Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which I've spent nearly 100 hours with. In fact, there's no dragons or magical spells either, setting it apart from similarly massive RPGs. Instead, you're up against marauding armies, cruel social constructs, and the rigid politics of 15th century Bohemia. If you didn't play the first, don't fret. Those who did will undoubtedly get more out of the follow-up adventures of protagonist Henry of Skalitz and noble Hans Capon. However, newcomers will find the predicaments the duo gets themselves into gripping nonetheless. Not only does the narrative hammer home the events of the first, but it also cleverly sets you back to square one in terms of abilities, leaving Henry stranded in a new region with nothing but the clothes on his back. Thankfully, he still knows how to read. The first third is spent learning or relearning Kingdom Come's unique sim-like RPG systems before things click into place. You must sharpen your sword periodically, eat but not too much, and sleep lest you suffer penalties to your stats. Don't forget to visit the bathhouse to wash grime off your clothes either, or nobles and peasants alike won't want to talk to you. You should also get a grasp on the methodical blacksmithing and alchemy minigames, as they're used in plenty of quests. None of these tasks are particularly difficult or tedious, coming together more seamlessly than in the original. Instead, they serve to create a more measured pace than Skyrim's and Witcher 3's, doing a wonderful job to immerse you in the world. I myself felt growing pains with these sim elements at first, but once I got used to them, 30 hours flew by as I adventured through the lush green forests and rolling fields of what's now known as the Czech Republic. The storytelling did a wonderful job immersing me too, continuing what made the first title great with a rather grim tale of war washed down with amusing side scenarios. As you help Henry do his best not to become a monster like those responsible for the deaths of his parents, a priest in a rural village asks you to find and destroy dragon bones, actually an exposed dinosaur fossil, before the discovery frightens the locals too much. For every quest completed, 3 more pop up like a game of medieval whack-a-mole. This is perhaps where Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 shines the brightest. There's plenty of memorable tales wrapped up in historical accuracy to lose yourself in. Quite a lot of them appear mundane. The cooks in a castle might want you to sprinkle holy water around fireplaces to ward off demons. Somehow, this ends in a fistfight with the castle blacksmith. While the lengthy main story had me in suspense as foes turned allies, surprise attacks upended plans, and the gang stormed fortified castles, pulled off massive heists, and endured sieges, I couldn't help but complete every side quest available before advancing the narrative further. That said, sometimes inconsistent voice acting broke the thrall Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 had over me. Main characters have gravitas to them, but side characters often sound flat by comparison. I had a hard time not skipping certain dialogues as a result. Bland facial animations and stiff movements didn't help and served as a sharp contrast to the gorgeously rendered environments. Periodic visual bugs and a couple of broken side quests never stopped me from getting into tavern brawls or visiting bathhouse wenches for some off-screen debauchery, and to boost Henry's stats. No matter how much I tweaked the in-game settings, I also had trouble maintaining a consistent frame rate, especially around light sources, which you've no doubt noticed in my footage. But they jarred me enough to remember to start the laundry and to stretch my legs. This is mostly apparent in the last 6 or so main story quests, where some missing cutscenes, voice lines, and incorrect text in the quest journal led to some confusion. Early patches may fix these issues. But well before then, at about the 30-hour mark, Henry's personal quest reaches an otherwise satisfying conclusion. From there, he gains new allies and travels to an even bigger region with side adventures, daring rescues, and political intrigue galore. Despite being the length of a full game, everything before this transition felt like a prologue, or maybe an epilogue to the original game, and I couldn't have been happier to spend another 60 hours with my main man Henry of Skalitz, the hedonistic Hans Capon, Godwin the alcoholic priest, and some new, less-than-savory friends. Through all this adventuring, much of the game's immersion depends on the fact that Henry is simply a commoner doing his best, a son of a blacksmith embroiled in the schemes of nobles and kings, that often sneaks peeks into different aspects of Bohemian society, from working as a miller's hand to serving wine for kings. Early on, the reputation system hammers this home. With only rags and not enough coin to afford a trip to the bathhouse in the beginning, villagers dismissed me until I could dress better and clean myself up. Once I did, more quests opened up and traders sold better armor and weapons at cheaper prices, feeding into a nigh invisible progression system. Before long, my Henry went from a beggar to a trusted man-at-arms and eventually a respected leader of men. The direction-based combat also reflects this growth. Wielding a handful of different weapons, I anticipated from which direction an opponent would strike based on the position of their weapon arm. I then parried, riposted, and comboed them into submission. At first, I was at the mercy of destitute bandits, and thus each bout was a fight of life or death, especially against more than one foe. However, this sim-based progression frays at the edges the more your skills grow, meaning that if you take your time doing most of the side quests, Henry becomes a one-man army, master surgeon, and an invisible thief in full plate armor with a silver tongue no one can resist, as you'll max out most of these stats without trying to. You see, this progression is tied to doing certain tasks, actually crafting potions to raise alchemy, using a halberd to raise your polearm skill, and as there's so much content here, it's quite easy to max most of these out a little over halfway through the game. This was most apparent in a climactic one-on-one duel, a culmination of many story threads carried over from the first title and dozens of hours invested in the second. I simply countered my opponent thrice, and the battle was over in less than 30 seconds. Elsewhere, entire armed garrisons fell before me. I feared no dialogue skill check as I swayed nobles to my side, maidens to my bed, and even guards to leave me alone despite fresh blood staining my Waffenrock. So while Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 succeeds in engrossing you in 15th century Bohemia with grounded sim-like mechanics that immerse you in its RPG systems, this is only true for the initial 2/3. Both technically and mechanically, it unravels a little from there. Regardless, the nearly 100 hours I spent in the well-traveled boots of Henry of Skalitz were held together by a memorable cast, humorous and intriguing side quests by the dozens, and a gripping main narrative that kept me invested until the climactic and satisfying conclusion to a tale that I can't wait to see continued.
I love that, sir. Up is ours!
Sir, you have to come with me quickly. The surgeon too.
Can't you see we're in the middle of serious debate?
No, please, come quickly, before it's too late.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the review, consider giving me a like and subscribe. If you don't know, my name is Lowell and I'm a freelance game critic and guide writer, and I tend to turn my reviews and opinion pieces into videos here on YouTube when I can. Thanks, bye.